Why did psychologists once scare a baby with a rat, trick volunteers into believing they killed someone, and let students abuse each other in a fake prison? These shocking experiments weren't just cruel, they still shape how we understand the human mind today. Psychology is supposed to help us understand the human mind, to heal, to guide, and to improve our lives. But before today's strict ethical rules, some researchers crossed lines that should never have been crossed. They frightened infants, lied to volunteers, and pushed people into cruelty, just to see how far the mind could bend. In this video, we're going to uncover 5 of the most infamous psychology experiments ever conducted. Each one reveals not only the dark side of science, but also the hidden depths of human nature. Stay with me, because the further we go, the more disturbing it becomes. 1. The baby and the rat. In 1920, psychologist John Watson wanted to prove that humans could be conditioned just like animals. His subject? A 9-month-old baby known as Little Albert. At first, Albert showed curiosity toward a fluffy white rat. But then came the twist. Every time Albert reached out to touch it, Watson struck a metal bar with a hammer right behind the baby's head. The deafening noise terrified him. Soon, just seeing the rat was enough to make Albert cry and crawl away. This wasn't simply a cute experiment gone wrong, it was psychological harm that lasted. Albert was never unconditioned, meaning he carried that fear long after the study ended. Imagine a child today growing up with unexplained phobias because of one researcher's curiosity. But here's the darker part. Watson didn't stop with the rat. Albert also became terrified of rabbits, dogs, even a Santa mask with white fur. Think about how kids today can develop a fear of dogs after just one bad encounter. Watson proved how powerful fear conditioning is, but at the expense of an innocent child. Some experts now believe this experiment was an early glimpse into how trauma and anxiety disorders can form, not just in babies, but in all of us. 2. The Orphans of Iowa. In the late 1930s, psychologist Wendell Johnson and his student Mary Tudor wanted to study how feedback affected children's speech. They chose 22 orphans, promising them speech therapy. Instead, half of the children were praised with encouraging words, while the others were harshly told they had speech problems, even when they didn't. The results were devastating. Children who received positive feedback gained confidence, even if their stutter didn't vanish. But those who were criticized became anxious, withdrawn, and deeply insecure. Some carried those scars for life. Imagine being just 8 years old, and an adult tells you, "Don't speak unless you can do it right." Think of how a single cruel comment about your accent or how you talk can stay with you for years. For these orphans, it wasn't just one comment, it was repeated, systematic. Today, speech therapy focuses on building confidence and self-expression. The monster study shows us why. Language isn't just about words, it's tied to identity and self-worth. 3. The shock of obedience. Fast forward to the 1960s. Yale psychologist Stanley Milgram asked a chilling question. How far will ordinary people go when ordered by authority? His experiment put volunteers in the role of teachers who believed they were shocking another person for wrong answers. Each mistake raised the voltage. The cries, the banging on the wall, even the silence that followed. It was all an act. But the subjects didn't know that. Shockingly, 65% of participants pushed the switch all the way to the maximum 450 volts, simply because a man in a white lab coat insisted. They believed they might have seriously harmed or even killed someone. But here's the part that still haunts psychology. Most of them looked uneasy, yet they obeyed anyway. Think of times at work when a boss demands something you know feels wrong, but you follow orders because they're the authority. That's the Milgram Experiment in everyday life. In today's world, this raises new questions. Do we obey algorithms and influencers the same way we once obeyed authority figures? When your phone tells you to keep scrolling, or a trend pressures you to conform, how different is that from Milgram's lab? 4. Silence in the crowd. In 1964, a woman named Kitty Genovese was murdered in New York. Newspapers claimed that more than 30 neighbors saw or heard her cries, yet none called the police. Though later reports revealed the story was exaggerated, it sparked a haunting question. Why do people stay silent in moments of crisis? Psychologists John Darley and Bib Latané tested this by tricking college students into thinking they were talking with others through an intercom. During the session, one recorded student pretended to have a seizure and begged for help. When students thought they were the only witness, most rushed to get help quickly. But when they believed others were listening too, their response slowed, or never came at all. This became known as the Bystander Effect. And here's the disturbing twist. It's not just history. Today, the bystander effect lives on in every viral video where people film instead of act. Think about moments when you've seen someone bullied in public, but everyone else just stared, waiting for someone else to intervene. It's easier to pass responsibility to the crowd. Modern psychologists warn that social media might even amplify the bystander effect, turning tragedy into entertainment, while the real victim is ignored. 5. The prison within. In 1971, Philip Zimbardo transformed a Stanford University basement into a simulated prison. 24 male students were randomly assigned to play guards or prisoners. Guards wore uniforms, carried batons, and were told to keep order by any means. Prisoners were stripped, given ID numbers instead of names, and locked into cells. What started as roleplay spiraled into abuse. Guards humiliated prisoners, forced them to do degrading tasks, and punished them harshly. Some prisoners broke down emotionally, others rebelled and were crushed. The experiment was meant to last 2 weeks, but collapsed after only 6 days. The chilling part? These were normal college kids, yet the roles consumed them. Think about toxic workplaces where managers bully staff, or schools where cliques abuse their power. The same psychology was at play in that basement. Many researchers now argue that the Stanford Prison Experiment wasn't just about roles, but also about flawed design. Zimbardo himself acted as prison superintendent, fueling the abuse. It raises an even darker question. When leaders don't set limits, how quickly do ordinary people lose their humanity? So what can we take away from these 5 disturbing experiments? First, fear can be planted, just like little Albert's phobia, showing how trauma shapes us from childhood. Second, words can wound or heal. As the Orphans of the Monster study proved, feedback leaves marks deeper than we imagine. Third, obedience is dangerous. The Milgram Experiment revealed how easily ordinary people follow authority, even against their conscience. Fourth, silence can kill. The bystander effect reminds us that inaction in a crowd can be as harmful as direct cruelty. And finally, power corrupts. The Stanford Prison Experiment showed that when people are given unchecked authority, cruelty often follows. Together, these studies forced science to face an uncomfortable truth. Understanding the human mind is important, but protecting human dignity is essential. If this video opened your eyes to the darker side of psychology, there's more waiting for you. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next story. Leave a comment below. Would you have acted differently if you were in one of these experiments? And if you want to keep exploring the strange corners of the human mind, check out our next video. It's about real-life mind control experiments that are even more unsettling.